everyone, and welcome to the check from Joseki Tech. Today, joining me, we have Lior, Amelia, and Brittany from Optimove. We're going to be talking about some of the data and process around Optimove today. So can we all introduce ourselves? You want to start off, Lior?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Adam, for the intro. I'm Lior Grubert. I'm the senior team lead in the customer data engineering team. Been with Optimove for about 5 years now. Excited to record this today.
Amelia?
Yeah, of course. My name is Amelia Dom, and I am a customer data engineer team leader also here at Optimove. I have been with Optimove exactly 3 years now, almost to the date.
Excellent.
So excited to be here and talk a little bit about it.
Excellent. Brittany?
I am Brittany Croson. I am a technical project manager, and I have only been with Optimove for about 7 months, so I am the baby on the team. We have a lovely team, though, and I'm super excited to be here to discuss it.
Excellent. So for those of you that don't know, Optimove is a multi-channel marketing hub that's used for sending, emails and texts and direct mails and what have you. It also works a bit as a customer data platform. So you wind up uploading your customer data. So things about your customers, their tier in the loyalty program, names, address, etc., as well as your sales information about them. And then Optimove, their sort of secret sauce is they can learn based on a customer's micro segments what is best to send to them versus send to someone else. So we can pick the right campaign for the right person in the right time. So Lior and I have been working on the same large enterprise client for 4 or 5 years now. Mm-hmm. And they've got tens of millions of customer records and hundreds of thousands of sales records every day that go over. And today we want to give you a little intro to what some of that data process looks like, and then how we do the care and feeding of that, because it's a large client. They've got new data all the time, and over the years I think we've really gotten good at it. I will say the meeting that the three of us have every other week is pretty pleasant, pretty fun, because we all know what we're doing and things just move along at a nice pace. So Lior, you want to introduce how some of the data process works?
Yeah, definitely. So first I wanted to make the distinguish between kind of like the batch process and the real-time process. So today we're going to talk about the batch process. So every single day we get data from this client and we process it on our end automatically. So everything is set up in advance. And it could be, the data could come from various sources. So Optimove uses Snowflake, and so is the client, and we can integrate Snowflake to get into the data very smoothly. Some other data sources that we can do and Optimove uses is files. So basically flat files, and it could be semi-structured files like JSON or Parquet, and it could be structured files like CSV. We can also connect to any given database, whether it's on a cloud database or a non-cloud database. And we can also get batch data via API. So specifically with this client, we use Snowflake to utilize their process. And then we also use flat files. After we ingest those data, we have kind of like what we call a single customer view, where we calculate all the different parameters, all the different attributes, as we call it, or data points. And kind of like after that, let our product do its magic. So afterwards, you'll be able to send all of the different campaigns into the right, like Adam mentioned, like into the right customers with the right channel at the right time.
And Amelia, so we have a cadence that we do for looking at new changes and deploying new changes. Can you kind of talk us through how we've been doing that lately?
Yeah, of course. So we meet bi-weekly, as we mentioned, in these super pleasant meetings and talk about the upcoming changes that we're going to expect. So with the process that Lior is referring to, this batch process, we're constantly making, integrating changes, adding new tables, adding new attributes, adding new things and new adjustments as this business evolves. So within these meetings, we're going to talk about new sources, what the source is going to look like, and do some testing within these meetings to understand how we're going to roll this out and make it live on the Optimove site. We also talk through different use cases. If there's something we can do, or if we're not sure how to do, we'll all come together for a discussion on exactly how we can utilize the Optimove product to have that within the site.
Yeah, and we're doing deploys pretty much every other week at this point. And I think that's also gotten pretty steady. One of the things we do, and I think we can all attest it works well, is we wait till the end of the daily process when all of that day's emails have gone out. And then at that point, then you guys roll out the new code so you can then rerun sort of today's data again to make sure the process looks good. So the whole process is intraday, which everyone loves, not having to wake up in the middle of the night for these things. We get to see it run nice and smoothly once, and then that evening we run with the real data. So that's gone pretty well for us. I think that groove we've gotten into for a while now. We also pick the day of the week. I think we're typically doing a Tuesday these days because the Tuesday into Wednesday are kind of the least important email days for the client. So that kind of found to be a sweet spot for us. Now, Brittany, you're our project manager, and I know you're new to the team, and we've kind of developed our own habit of how we do things. And from what you've told me, all of your other clients have kind of adopted a more standardized process that's based on how we had been doing things over a while. Do you want to walk us through what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. And really it goes back to kind of what you just said, where it's a huge collaboration between us and our clients. And this, what I'm about to show you, the form that we use to keep all these details aligned is really important so that we have the organization and we have all of the really important parts of the data that need to flow into our UI available to us without having to do too much back and forth or potentially missing something important. So I'll just share my screen really quick and walk through this. All right. And it's pretty straightforward and simple, but we do now utilize this with all of our clients that we have for any change requests with or changes in the data that are going to go forward in our sprint process. So the client would come in and just fill this out themselves. So their instance name, they put my name here usually for project manager. Email, their name, if this change is going to be for more than one instance. And so an instance would be like if they have a QA instance and then a production instance, for example. So they would say yes or no to that. Is this related to any kind of consent or opt-in, opt-out features? And then down here, you get into the actual requests. So we have all of these laid out here, adding new tables, adding columns to existing tables, updating customer attributes or activity history, and also updating purchase history attributes. So let's just say we're going to add a new data table. When you click on it, it takes you down here to this really pretty, again, very detail-oriented section where they would put in all of the examples, very specific examples of what they need and what we will be looking for in the data that gets shared in the future in order to make this change happen. They can also add files here and add notes. And then basically what happens is when they submit this ticket, it comes directly to me. And then I work with our data team in order to get this, this change implemented. And like you said, we meet bi-weekly with the client. And then we meet internally as well, just to make sure that we're aligned and what we are communicating back to the client is accurate for that sprint.
Cool. Yeah, this does look a lot like the Confluence page we've been building for years. And the process we've been on is at the client site, we've got a Confluence instance and a sample page of that same exact information. Then we just share out a PDF of that over to the Optimove team to kind of discuss it. The other thing that I think is valuable from both sides is the notion of living documentation. Once we're a year down the road, we say, oh, what did we do with that field? It's good to have the documentation around. You can always just sort of pull it up and reference it and bring it up from sometimes before.
And with our really big, like enterprise level clients, we're dealing with a lot of data and a lot of data points and records. So keeping all of this very detailed and organized is extremely important for us.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, and I do want to say, this form is relatively new at Optimove. This is something that we've had, a different version, the Confluence page, that we've been using for this enterprise client for years.
Yep.
We saw how well it worked and decided it was applicable to all of our clients. Adam, you were providing all the details. You know Optimove very, very well. And we needed to make sure all the other clients do. There's a couple of specific processes within Optimove that are super important. Let's say a file is missing from the batch process. We need to understand if we're allowed to execute campaigns with or without that file. We need, that set in stone detail for each table. And if that gets lost in translation, there could be issues down the line. So the documentation is super important. And, the conception of it did derive from our working relationship, which is awesome.
Now, when we move from so you guys build out the code. To me, you're like the development team, and then everything gets handed off to the ops team. So are these forms also available to the ops team so they can better understand how the data is set up should you have problems sort of in the middle of the night?
So they do have this accessible, but they're not really, we really use it. They pointed out to us, and we have a broader team, not just in the US, but we also kind of like have a 24/7 team also that is operating in Tel Aviv and in India and in the UK that can provide fully support. And once those engineers get to see those forms, they're able to identify the issue if needed, or perform any fixes on the spot. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to implement it or have the US team wake up, in the morning or in the middle of the night to perform it. It can be ready by the time the team wakes up.
Excellent. So I hope that was instructive for those. I know we've got some new features coming in Optimove for self-service for adding data. We can talk about that in a later call. And we've also got a bunch of tips that we're going to want to share with people, but we'll save that for the next podcast. So anyway, thank you, Lior. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you, Brittany. And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.